Then after a while, I heard fingers snapping, and I happened to look, my eyes looked up at the brass section, and all the trumpets and trombones, they're doing like that, you know.
Wow, what a
Yeah.
guess.
And so they started saying, yeah, man, go ahead, blow, keep going. So I kept on, and I hadn't been near a piano in about 10 weeks before that. It was all basic training, you know. And so I kept on, and after a while, the guys in the band say, yeah, excuse me, yeah, man, go ahead, keep going. And so my arms were about to drop off then.
Wow.
And I told Cannonball, please go ahead. So the band came in shouting, you know.
Wow.
I read the rest of the music.
What a
And so
guess.
they took the tune out. Cannonball walked over to the piano and said, yeah, man, that was great. He says, what's your name? So I just used the name I had been using, my professional name, Junior Mance. He said, you Junior Mance, what are you doing here? I looked at it. I said, what are you doing here? Playing like you play here.
Oh,
And he
wow,
says,
man.
touche. He says, I guess you're coming to the band. I says, no, they won't let me. He says, why? I said, because I don't play a marching instrument. I said, oh, man. So I finished the set out with him, you know, which gave me time to get back and grab my rifle again and walk some more, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they were through for the night. So the next morning, the order of the day was the infiltration course. That's where you crawl under live machine gun fire.
Wow.
But it's fixed where they can't aim it down. But you're crawling through the mud. They made it muddy that day. They got these big hoses made it muddy. You're
Wow.
crawling with your rifle like that. And man, I must have been like a mole or something. I was trying to get under the dirt, knowing that those were live bullets over my head.
Wow.
So finally they stopped when we got to the end of the infiltration course, which is about as long as a football field. You know, I happened to look up and I looked and I saw this Jeep approaching our first sergeant. And as it got close, I said, "That's Cannonball. What's he doing out here?" You know. So he walks up, and I'm watching all this. He walks up to the first sergeant and hands him a piece of paper. And the first sergeant just glanced at it and gave it back to Cannonball. And says, "All right, Mance, take off. They're gonna see you at headquarters." So I jumped in the Jeep with Cannonball. I said, "Man, what's happening? Well, fill me in quick." He said, "Shh, wait till we get out of earshot." So he drove a little while and he said, "Now, number one, these orders are phony." See, but he got together with the company clerk of the band. That's what the drummer was.
Mhm.
He did all the clerical work. He says, we got together and we want you to play for the warrant officer who's the commander of the band and see if we can pull some kind of strings to get you in the band.
Wow.
So yeah, well, I hope so. So we went and we went back to the barracks, not to headquarters. And they had, and Cannonball had stacked the deck. He had the bass player tune up his bass and the drummer set his drums up, you know. And I got there and so he introduced me to the warrant officer. And so I said, well, let me hear you play something, you know. So I just kept it simple. I played some blues about that tempo, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so the guys, when I say he stacked it, they tell the guys, "I whoop it up. When man start playing, act like you enjoyed whether you enjoy it or not, you know." And they did, you know. So the warrant officer, he's standing there, and he didn't know a thing about jazz, you know. He stuck his thumbs in his belt like that, and he looked from side to side while they were making all this noise, you know. So I finished the tune, and he looked. This was the most backhanded compliment I ever had in my life. He says, "Well, you must be good. They think you are."
Wow.
You know. So he had me play another tune, another couple of tunes, and then he asked the question that Cannonball forgot to take care of. He says, "Well, what is your other instrument?" I saw Cannonball say, hit his head like that. As if to say, "Man, how could I forget something like that?" And so I couldn't lie fast enough. I couldn't think of no kind of lie to tell him, you know. And I knew if I hesitated too long, they'd know it was a lie.
Right.
So I said, I'm sorry, sir, I don't play another instrument. So he still got his thumbs in his belt. He says, oh, well, that presents a problem, you know. And but we'll see what we can do. So it was back to the infantry with me then, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, and so, but Cannonball talked the guy, is the warrant officer, into letting me get free to play with them at night when they played the service club gig or any other gigs on the post that he played.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy, he okayed that. He signed the papers that Private Mance can hang out with the band every night, you know. So that's what I did. And I had my platoon sergeant from the infantry. He's also from Chicago. And a nice guy. He says, man, he says, yeah. He says, go ahead, you know. He says, you can go every night. I won't tell if you don't, you know, one of those type things. So I did. So after about 2 weeks, man, of hanging out with them, I went to hang out this particular night, and they all looked depressed. I said, what's the matter, man? What's the matter? Why is everybody down? He said, well, our company clerk just got orders to ship out. He was going to Germany, but to play with another band, with a special services band. I said, oh, man. He said, we're not only losing our drummer, we're losing our company clerk. You know, well, there was another guy who was able to fill the drummer spot, but nobody could fill the company clerk, and they wanted an in-house company clerk. Well, the company clerk they had a connection at headquarters and would warn them, you know, of any inspections coming up, like the Inspector General and all of that, you know. So I said, Cannonball, what do you have to do to get that gig? He said, first you have to know how to type. I said, I know how to type. I learned it in high school.
All right.
And the way I learned it, I needed 1 credit to graduate, because I graduated in 3 years. I went right straight through. That was during the war, you know, right straight through the summers. Mm-hmm. And I needed 1 more credit to graduate. So I took typing.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah. So
great skill to have.
Yeah. Saved my life, I tell you that. So I said, Cannonball, I know how to type. And you could almost see the light bulb go all over there. He said, you do? I said, yeah. So he got together with the drummer who hadn't left yet. He had a couple more weeks for leaving, you know. And they cooked up some more phony orders and presented them to the warrant officer, who presented them to the headquarters and said, well, they're going to be without a company clerk, and they would like to have an in-house company clerk, you know. And I'll make a long story short, they told about how I played piano but no other instrument, but I would be valuable to them as a company clerk. So it worked.
Wow, that's
I got the
beautiful.
job. And then what they did, they sent me to clerk type to school, which is just for 2 weeks learning Army administration. Yeah, you know, and so I was in then.
That's a fantastic story. You know, that's beautiful.
And so that isn't the end quite. What happened was the group that I was taking basic training got shipped out 2 weeks after I was on this other gig to Korea. You know, they shipped. It was a 200 man company. They shipped them all out. And so after a month or so, one of them came back to the hospital. I just happened to see him. He was in a wheelchair. We happened to pass by there. I said, this looks like, I forgot his name, but so-and-so is in my group. And I stopped. And he says, hey, Mance, how you doing? I said, well, I finally made it to the band. How are you doing? He's sitting in a wheelchair with both his legs shot off.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. He says, man, you'll never believe this. He said, you know, we weren't trained for battle anyway. Not yet, not in the short time they trained them.